And I'm going to share my screen now. Um, there's two links. Good morning, Matthew. Welcome. Sure, no worries. We're getting started right away, and we are in Domain 5, 20% of the entire exam, six objectives spelled out in the PDF that was sent out to you. Focus will be security governance, risk, compliance, third-party management, audit, and awareness. This is that part of the work where we get to walk through aspects of cybersecurity that can permit you to stay compliant. Um, if you find yourself maybe say in the audit domain of cybersecurity, then your responsibility is more or less this kind of responsibility that you show up in a company and try to ensure that the company is compliant as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Uh, what we mean here is that you will show up in a company with that is operating, and you have like a checklist in your hand that you are going through to see if they are respecting standards that have been laid out in each of the documentation, cybersecurity related documentation that the company has pushed out there. And at the end of the day, you will be able to give a grade with respect to how this company is behaving in the face of this laid down standards. And then this report that you give will be used to either call this company to order or to say that the company is doing fine. Um, we'll start off our conversation with the security policy framework. Here, essentially, the cybersecurity professionals have developed a kind of structured workflow to permit them to communicate their expectations, rules, and procedures in a clear manner. This is what they call the security policy framework. And the security policy framework would include the following elements: policies, standards, guidelines, and procedures. In terms of how these are related, you start off with the policy, which is a formal document that basically specifies why we need to operate in this particular way. And then within the policy document, you go on to specify what is required. What is required there is what standards will be, and then you now specify as well how you do the thing that is required. That is what procedures will be. And then finally, you also have best practices that if a company were taking on them, the company would be compliant cybersecurity wise. That would constitute guidelines. So the security policy is a formal document that outlines the rules, the guidelines, and practices within an organization as far as protecting its digital assets and information from cyber threats is concerned. It's like a roadmap in an organization that shows the security of efforts that the organization is taking, and gives a kind of structured approach for how you can manage risk, within cybersecurity and how you can protect valuable informational assets in an institution. What would make for a good policy? A good policy will be expected to cover not only some aspects, but every aspect of the organization's information technology infrastructure, digital assets, hardware, software, network, and data. This policy should be able to specify clearly the expectations of how employees with stakeholders in the company should behave as far as cybersecurity is concerned, regarding things like access control, what access controls are available in terms of data, uh, how do you get to the data, is the data restricted from certain people or not, and how is this restriction enforced within the company? Uh, how do we handle the data itself? How long do we keep the data? Um, when we are done utilizing this data, how do we get rid of the data? In the event where there's an incident, there's a breach, there's been a breach of the database or something within the company, what are the steps to take to contain this breach? How do we resolve this and then get the business back into operation in the shortest time possible? As far as the content of the security policy document will be concerned, we will lay out rules, we will lay out procedures and technical standards for different security areas. For example, how do we manage passwords? Uh, what are the various types of encryption that we are using? And for data in various states, be it data that's at rest, uh, in motion, or in use, how do we apply encryption standards to these various phases or stages in which data could find itself? A security policy would uh, would would be updated from time to time because the way the organization is functioning, it might change from time to time. Imagine that at one point you were working as a cybersecurity organization securing the assets of one company. If this company gets into business with other companies, whereby you have like a merger, the new companies that are coming on board would have been operating maybe slightly differently. So you have to review the policy document that has been existing for the one organization so that they can capture the fact that there's been new organizations that have joined through a merger. Now let's try to pick on the various elements within the security policy document. The standard, this would be the section of the security policy that prescribes details of controls, specific details of controls that have to be in place if the company must stay safe. It's derived also from the policy, but it would include details like what encryption protocols are compliant, are we engaging for this particular aspect of our work? What are the storage locations where we need to store data related to these processes? And are these storage locations safe? Are there any configuration parameters that we need to be able to action these particular responsibilities? All of this will be captured within the standard. and the standards have to be, they are mandatory. So uh, if an audit team were to come to an organization, one of the things that they'll be looking at is, are you respecting the encryption protocols that, are you respecting the implementation using the encryption protocols that you yourself lay down, or that the cybersecurity governing bodies have laid down in this particular aspect? Looking at the setup of your company, looking at how you are storing your data. Do you have the correct storage facilities when it comes to uh, your data, when it comes to your encryption keys, for instance? These have to be looked into. When it comes to guidelines, they are just best practices. And so if you don't have guidelines for every aspect of your cybersecurity operation, you are not held by any compliance. You're not held down by any security related, what do you call, you're not held down or punished because you did not have guidelines. Okay, the guidelines are only there to ensure that all of these efforts that you're putting together amount to something useful. An example of guidelines would be the following. If your company has uh, the tendency to allow that people who work for the company could work for the company while they are away, maybe for business trips, or maybe if they go on holiday and they need to work from the location where they are working. Maybe say your company is based in Europe and you're going on holiday to China, for instance. And while you are in China, if you need to work for the company, maybe if that is permissible, then one of the guidelines will be that to ensure that you access resources of the company working from China in a secure manner, please use encrypted wireless networks or use a VPN. That's a guideline. Now, this is not a must, okay, because this is dependent on the company. A company might decide, for instance, to say that you are not allowed to work when you are out of Europe. If they say you are not allowed to work when you are out of Europe, then such a thing like using encrypted wireless networks or VPNs while you are traveling would not even apply in the first place. With procedures, we have here instructions step by step that have been laid down so that they can be followed to achieve the purpose, the intended purpose. Here, in terms of compliance, you are not mandated necessarily, can be optional. An example of a procedure will be when it comes to activating your cybersecurity incident response team. The procedure might be like this. Since the cybersecurity incident response team is only activated when there has been an incident, let us have a preferred channel of information for them, which would be text, for instance, or video conference. So the procedure here would be, incidents have happened. Please send a text message to that text channel or set up that video call immediately to bring together the members that are in the incident response team so that they can get ready to get into action and stop the incidents that we have that's currently in progress. Uh, there's some key policy areas. We're going to touch on a few of them. One of them is in the area of data storage. You would have to define the location where you would store your data, and this data that you store is classified is classified. You would not store sensitive data in the same place where you store data that is not sensitive. You would also not store very sensitive data in the cloud. Very sensitive data would rather be stored on premises, and then maybe data that is not so sensitive can be stored in the cloud. And again, even at that, while storing data, be it on premises or in the cloud, you would want to encrypt the data before you store it. Because although the data is not sensitive, it might be informational enough to, release certain secrets about your function to third parties. And so while keeping this information, you want to keep it in a state that should a third party have access to this information, they would have the most basic exposure necessary. If this data were encrypted, for instance, they would have to find a way to unencrypt this data just to make sense of the data, and then they can, start acting on this. Another key area for policy is that of data transmission. When data is stored or data is moving, you want to encrypt it such that uh, even if it were intercepted, it does not expose the content of this data to the third party that has intercepted this data. Companies will go the extra mile of mandating encryption using various algorithms. Uh, an algorithm that would be popular would be AES, for instance, and this is what you would use for data that's uh, 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 um, data that is at rest. By data that's at rest, we are referring to data that is sitting on your hard drive somewhere and is not currently being utilized. For data that is not at rest, it will be in one of two states. It will be in use. Data that is in use, this is data that is currently in the memory. It's currently in the RAM, and other processes that are in memory are accessing this data and using it for different purposes or processing. This is data that's in use. Besides data that is in use, you have data that's in transit. Data that is in transit is data that is being moved from one location to the other. If you're moving data from the hard drive that's on your server to the hard drive that's on your own local computer or client, then that state in which the data is between leaving the hard drive of the server to getting to your own hard drive is what we call data in motion or in transit. In such an instance, you need to encrypt this data as well. And popular encryption algorithms that go with this will still be AES, but the mechanism here would be TLS, Transport Layer Security. The last key area of in the policy that we're going to touch on is that of the data life cycle. Data has a life cycle of its own. So data is created and then it is kept over a period of time. And then after that, it has to be destroyed. Why do you want to minimize? Why do you want to minimize the period of time for which data is kept? You want to minimize the period of time for which data is kept because it reduces the risk for your organization as well. If you've kept data for a period longer than you have been using this data, chances are that after this period you no longer have use for this data, but this data is being sought after by other actors. And these actors that are going after this data, if they got hold of this data, they can use this data that they have access to now to commit a crime. And you will be responsible for this crime for the reason why this crime was actually a success in the first place. But look at it. You are being held responsible for a crime when the data that you kept was no longer useful to you. So it's good practice to watch the data that you're keeping and ensure that this data is kept for the required time only. If you collected data and you're no longer using this data, best practice is get rid of the data. And when it comes to getting rid of the data, you have to get rid of the data in a properly thought about way to prevent the data getting into wrong hands again. Remember that we have talked about the fact that getting rid of the data has possible options. You can delete the data, but deleting the data is not necessarily destroying the data. So, how do we actually go about destroying this data? I'm going to give you the possibility to talk here. How do we destroy data? Okay, talking about password standards, we will need to set rules as a cybersecurity personnel or working within cybersecurity. We need to set rules for the length of a password and for the complexity of a password. What do we mean by length? What do we mean by complexity? As length and complexity is concerned. Again, with passwords, you need to be very articulate about how reuse should play out. Should someone be allowed to reuse their password or not? This is a question that you might want to ask. Uh, Google, for instance, I that is ideal, and that's what Google, for instance, does. if you have if you requested to reset your password for Google, for instance, okay, Google keeps a history of the passwords that you have been using. So let's say that you come up and it turns out that you have forgotten your password and you decide to reset your password and choose to reset. When Google will send you the reset link and you try to click on that reset link and take you to where you will set a new password. If you want to set a new password and it happens to be a password that you have used for this account before, Google will tell you that the password that you have just put is a previous password for this account. So please change it. You are not allowed to use the same. In terms of password standards as well, you can set expiration policies for passwords. Most companies would have a default expiration policy for a period of, say, of a couple of months. In my own company, I think the policy is every 6 months. So every 6 months, yes, you need to change your password. And when the 6 months are approaching, you receive an email to advise about the need to change the password, and a warning telling you that if you fail to change the password by this date, you would lose access. There is actually a policy that's implemented with Active Directory that will enforce this. In our last was it last Sunday's lecture, we actually did something like that with Active Directory. Did you have the opportunity to finish that exercise on Active Directory basics? Well, there's the video on the GPO thing that I did. It's on YouTube. If you had watched it, probably you would have seen, you would have gone past that aspect. But after, before, leading up to that point, there's actually guidelines within TryHackMe on how you can actually activate a password policy. And here in this activation of password policy, you can go as far as specifying the period of time over which a password would expire. You can choose, say, 30 days or 90 days. Within this particular activity on Active Directory that we did on TryHackMe, the responsibility there was to set it to 30 days, I think. If you had finished the exercise, you would have seen that you can actually use those templates. There are templates that Windows has actually custom put for you that you can customize, and you will be able to set that the password should expire in 30 days, and you can enforce this. Okay, moving on to access control standards. Access control standards here, they concern employees of the company, they concern contractors as well, because the company does business with various contractors. They concern even devices. Here, cybersecurity requires that you should anticipate the arrival of an employee, the arrival of a contractor, the arrival of a new device. By doing what? By preparing for this upfront. For devices, we saw that if there's a new device that's coming, IT support is given the responsibility of creating a serial or an identification tag for the new computer, for instance, that is being acquired. When they create this, they also have the responsibility of setting up the initial configurations of this device, configuring it following the policy of the company. If this device is a company owned device and we are operating uh, on a kind of policy that says that the company makes available devices to its employees, then IT support will go ahead to set this up such that you do not have super user privileges on this device. Therefore, if in future you will need to install any software on this device, you would need support from IT support to get this done. This is the business of provisioning. Okay, that's the business of provisioning. If it is about a new employee, the aspect of provisioning will be about collecting information from the employee, like their name, their first name, their last name, their date of birth, and other things like telephone number to help set up a user email for the employee. That would be the aspect of provisioning. When it comes to the aspect of use, that would be things like what the employee, for instance, is permitted to do with this particular computer. This might entail things like IT support setting up a company portal and then picking up applications that this employee will be using from time to time and putting them in the company portal. That way, any application that is in the company portal is an application that has been regarded as is safe for use. And so if the employee needs to use one of these applications for their functioning, they just need to go to this company portal and install from there. We said that this is good practice, and there's also software that the employee needs to use in their functioning that will not be in the company portal. Whatever is not in the company portal, that is what the employee now has to raise a ticket for, to say that I need this extra software to use, but it is not on the company portal. There, a procedure is engaged to check if this software that the employee wants to use is safe, if it is needed, if it has to be paid for, if it has a license that need maintenance and all of that. And based on these various factors, a decision gets made whether to install it for the employee or not. When it comes to the aspect of decommissioning, that's when the employee, for instance, is losing their job, is being fired. There's a chain of procedures that get into place to ensure that even though the employee is leaving, we do not restrict access to resources earlier than necessary, or we do not give them access later than they would have departed. As far as devices are concerned, this will be about uh, taking this device, cleaning up all the data that's in the device safely, and then checking whether this device can be used by someone else in the future, or outrightly destroying the device because it has been ascertained that it's no longer fit for use. As far as encryption standards are concerned, I already talked about the different states in which data will be. So I also talked about the fact that there will be various algorithms that would be needed for the different states in which this data is concerned. The company has to anticipate this, and this goes into most of the company documentation, like the policies and the standards. Okay, it's very clear there, so that you don't make up your own thing and start using, because anything that you make up and start using has potential to lead the company into a vulnerable state. Incident response playbooks. What are these? Now, incident response playbooks, they are just predefined actions that the company has thought about to facilitate the process of responding to an incident. They are put at the disposal of the incident response team. They are usually conceived by experienced members of the incident response team, and these members factor in their experience with past incidents to be able to, fast track a response to an incident. If there's been an incident or a breach in the company, you want to ensure that everyone takes the shortest time possible to get on board with stopping this incident. We are able to contain this incident to a particular computer within the shortest time possible. And then we are able to document what transpired. And then we recover the data that was maybe encrypted or stolen. And then we are back in activity in the shortest time possible. To ensure that this happens, an incident response playbook is created. I'm going to show you an example of a playbook shortly. This is not necessarily for an incident response team, but this is for a phishing campaign, for instance. It's just like what we call it's a structured approach, or what you can call a flow chart that permits you to walk through an incident or to walk through a challenge, a cybersecurity related challenge. This is the example of a phishing incident. Let's imagine that uh, signals have been picked up within the company that indicate that there might have been a phishing incident. What is the way to go? This is the way to go. When you receive the suspected email, you want to check this suspected email to see if the email contains a URL or it contains an attachment. If this email does not contain any of the above, then there is nothing to be done. But if it contains a URL or an attachment, you need to take the next step. You need to check. If it is only an attachment, then the way to go is to compute the hash of the attachment and then to send it out to a threat intelligence platform like VirusTotal. VirusTotal has hashes of all attachments that have been declared before now as being malicious. And if you upload the hash that's within your email to VirusTotal, VirusTotal will try to match it to its database. If there is a match in the database with another hash, then it is confirmed that this email actually is a phishing email, in which case you take the next action, which is to delete this email. If it is not the case that the hash has been found, if there is no hash found for this, then the company assumes that this email is safe and there is nothing to be done. In the event where you instead had a URL within the email, you just need to forward that URL to VirusTotal, for instance, and then VirusTotal will again check. If VirusTotal has a registry in its database for this URL, then you can take action and delete the email. If it doesn't have it, then you can consider that there was not an incident and move. Besides VirusTotal, there are other threat intelligence platforms out there that permit for you to be able to figure out whether an attachment or a URL is malicious. Uh, an example of something besides VirusTotal will be Talos, spelled Talos. Talos. I think that at one point in this training, we used either VirusTotal or Talos. Do you remember, Matthew and Suleiman? We used VirusTotal, I believe, to detect something. If we didn't, then let me know so that we will do something with VirusTotal at some point. But for this, I will need to prepare in advance. I will need to get like an attachment that I really know to be malicious, and then uh, I'll get the zip of the malicious attachment, and then I would compute the hash. I'll just show you how we can compute the hash, and then it's the hash itself that we'll be playing with, not actually the attachment. Okay. How do you know? There is In our last lecture, we talked about a set of tools within cybersecurity that can help with this. Do you remember that we talked about the endpoint detection and response software? Mhm. That is the role of these tools. So, yes, the company that you work for, if it is serious about cybersecurity, they will have such software to permit that they can capture emails. So, this software actually can sieve through every email just to figure out if there is an attachment or there is a URL. Yeah. And then sometimes this email that is sent to you, uh, every every bit of information that is moving in your network has two common parts. There is what we call the header portion, and then there is what we call the payload portion. The payload portion actually contains the real data that you would use. So if it's an email, for instance, the payload portion would contain the body of the email, like what they have actually written to you, and then things like any links or any attachments. Those are found within the payload portion. And then in the header portion, it would contain things like who is sending the email, who is receiving the email, the IP address from which the email is coming, and the IP address to which the email is going, and bits like that. And then it can also contain a descriptive information about what is inside the email. Okay. So the various monitoring software that you have in your network can already, from the header, flag an email just because of the descriptive element in the header. The descriptive element in the header says that there is a link, there is an attachment in the email. So if it flags this, it does not necessarily mean, from what we just saw, that this is malicious. It just means that you need to look into this. And so whoever is sitting on the security operations center, when he gets this flag, he wants to take a closer look. Could this be a phishing email? That's the aspect of the investigation now. And for that one, we have seen that there is a playbook that makes the process easy for you to follow, right? Otherwise, each time you have an incident or a potential incident on your hands, you have to start thinking from scratch. And thinking from scratch would make the investigation process long, and you might end up, not getting to discover the issue before it gets late. That's why playbooks are important. And playbooks, they are the responsibility of senior, of mid to senior experts in cybersecurity. So when you just get into cybersecurity with your CompTIA Security Plus certification, you will not, in the first year or second year of your work, be contributing to the development of a playbook. You can sit in the meeting when people are discussing about, what should go into the playbook, because these people have been working quite a number of years and understand the methodology that these things take. So they can put input. But you, who is a beginner, most of the time it will be about just understanding how this plays out and learning how to use the playbook. But by your second, third year of practice, you would have witnessed these incidents over and over, and you can confidently say that this is how these incidents normally begin, and then they can go through this and this and this step, and then get to this step. From that point on, you can actually actively participate in the development of the playbook. Okay. um, an aspect of the exam that you encounter from time to time would be about corporate governance. The exam would require that you should know about the various ways in which governance is handled within cybersecurity, which is the aspect of governance that we are trying to approach at this point. Uh, Corporate governance would entail that uh, a board of directors be given the responsibility of overseeing the functioning of the company. This board of directors will come into place through an election, and the election is the people that constitute the electorate in such an instance would be the shareholders. Now, when the board of directors have been instituted, uh, the board of directors will now set the strategic direction that the company will follow. This strategic direction is high level, okay? And when it comes to how to, do day-to-day activities uh, within the company is operating in the cybersecurity domain, there has to be a CEO that will be responsible for managing these day-to-day activities. This CEO usually will be appointed by the board of directors that has been elected. This is like in most corporate sectors, isn't it, Matthew? So there's no difference. There's not a lot of difference when it comes to cybersecurity. So authority will flow from the shareholders to the board, and then to the CEO, and then to the executives, to the managers, and then to the teams like that. So that's in terms of hierarchy of answering. So the team will answer to their managers are answering to, they are reporting to the executives are reporting to the CEO himself is reporting to the board, and the board reports to the shareholders. In terms of information security governance, this is derived from corporate governance, and the CEO will delegate the Chief Information Security Officer. The Chief Information Security Officer is like the most executive position as far as cybersecurity is concerned. So, if you intend to grow within cybersecurity to the highest rank within cybersecurity industry, then that is what you are looking at. The CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. That's like the highest position within cybersecurity portfolio. Governance models could be central or decentralized. They will trick you a lot of times with this in the exam. And the way they will do it in the exam is they would present the setting of a company and present the way they are working and expect that you should be able to see whether this is done in top-down approach, in which case you would be able to identify that this is centralized governance, or if it is done in the bottom-up approach, in which case you'll be able to identify that this is about decentralized governance. Any questions up to this point? So you can start off by reading the introductory paragraph there. I believe for task one, usually you don't have anything to fill. Yeah. So those are the learning objectives to understand. Yes, right on. I was going to read that, and the reason why I'm reading that is because, uh, well, I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but I talked about the fact that I was recording the session. Yeah, and the quality of your audio on my end is not very clear. I don't know about. Yep. So that's why I was doing the reading instead. So the learning objectives, we have to understand the role and importance of governance and regulation in cybersecurity, gain an understanding of relevant international laws, regulations, policies, standards, and guidelines. Sule, can you share your screen? I mean, I've already done the activity, so it wouldn't make sense if I were doing it again. You can just read those learning objectives and then we would move. Yeah. You can skip the aspect of the prerequisites, then scroll down and just click complete because no answer is required actually. Now let's go to task two. So those are the important terminologies: governance, regulation, and compliance. We will not spend a lot of time on there, but move down to where you have information security governance. Focus on those terms that are in bold: strategy, policies, and procedures. You can read those ones out. Yes, so you can go down to the questions now, question section. I mean, we'll go back slightly up when we try to answer the questions. Mhm. If you scroll back upwards, you'll see the answer. Sometimes you can take the hint; it will help you out. There, important terminologies. Yeah. So a rule or law enforced by a governing body to ensure compliance and protection against harm is a regulation. GDPR is only in Europe, essentially. It's a Europe regulation. And it's a good question that you asked. Every every continent or continental body has has their peculiarities, and so to stay safe within every continent, if you can put it that way, the various people within cybersecurity have come up with regulations that apply to that specific area. And so that's why you have those regulations. So if you go to China, the regulations are different or slightly different. You come to Europe, they're slightly different. In the US, they're slightly different. This mix, this mix also brings issues. Uh, you might have a company that's based in Europe, and the company is dealing with other companies that are based in the US. That means that this company has to enforce the two regulations, the one in Europe and the one in the US. If there's a little contradiction on the two policies, then the company would have an overarching cybersecurity policy that provides special regulations in those instances where there's a conflict. It's healthcare. You can scroll up a little bit, scroll up to that table. Yes, that's the table. So GDPR, that's for data privacy and protection. That's the domain that it covers. And this is a European Union standard that sets strict requirements for how companies can handle and protect personal data of EU citizens and residents. HIPAA, HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. That act is a US-based law to maintain sensitivity of health-related information of citizens of the US. You have the PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. This affects transactions in the financial domain. So if a company is involved in financial transactions, if your company is building software and the software as a banking transaction related, they are software that permit people to do e-commerce, then chances are that there are financial aspects, and so you would have to ensure that the requirements of PCI DSS are being respected within your company, so that when auditors show up, you will not have anything to fear, because auditors will show up, and it is mandated by regulation that auditors will show up every few months or every few years to come and see that you are practicing the way it should be. And the reason for auditors showing up is because it is believed that one person's security is the security of everybody. So if one company goes down, whichever company that this company has been doing business with has the potential also of going down. Yes, a loophole that can affect every other person. So that's why it is mandated that everybody should be audited from time to time to be sure that everybody is compliant. Yep, I believe we can move to task 3, information security frameworks. So you can read that first paragraph because that's where we were a while ago in terms of the slides. In our last week's session, we discussed baselines, right? And we said that the baseline would be that thing that we establish in terms of security that must be there, minimum, and that uh, it's a starting point because the baseline will not capture every fragment of what your company is doing. So you have to reevaluate the baseline and see whether there are aspects of the baseline that you need to tune to align more with your company. And we said that once you do this, you should go ahead and document the changes that have happened so that in the event where there is maybe you're starting up anew, you have this documentation that can help you go from the ground up in the shortest time possible. Yes. Um, not a concern really. It's got a password, right? Yeah. So it's not I would say it's not necessarily a vulnerability. It only becomes vulnerable if the organization has pasted the password to that Wi-Fi on their walls of the company. Because if they've pasted that, it means that any onlooker that's passing by the company will see it and copy it. Okay, there are a few steps. There are a few steps that organizations have taken with respect to this. Okay, in my company, the Wi-Fi is available within a certain number of meters of the company building, but they have not set up only one Wi-Fi. They've set up at least two. There is one for core members, like for staff like me. There is one for staff that are not core members. Okay. So if you are, for instance, I am in a university, we have students. Students will join on a different network than staff will join. Yes, we've kind of segmented it like that so that you join on a different network. So the domain that you have influence over has various bands. Now, if we have an event on our campus, we go ahead and create another network for the guest. So when the guests come, the password of that one is there. But the thing that we do is that the guest one, we place it on a totally different domain that is very much guarded so that the guest cannot go from that one to the other ones. And again, and again, the guest network, it has been provisioned already before the event, but it is not active yet. When the event is about to begin, that's when the IT guys spin it up. And then as soon as the event is rounding up, the IT guys take it down. Yes. Public Wi-Fi that they're talking about is Wi-Fi like in the airports. Okay. In the airport, in the coffee shop, where most of the time they like in the coffee shop, for instance, inside the tram and things like that, you don't need specific credentials to join that network. Usually the network is pretty much open. You just click and you join. Or even if you have to provide things, they will just ask for your email. You just put your email and then automatically you join. Those are the kinds of open networks that people are guarding against seriously. Why? Because see, you just join now, right? Means that I can join now as well. And when I join, I am in the same network as you. Okay, I am in the same network as you, and I can start uh, carrying out hacking activity, and I will start monitoring your transactions and all of that. But in all of these, there is no safeguard that's in place in the event where an event actually happens because of this. Who do you who do you who do you hold responsible for this action other than the company that created the open network? But in the event where you have like a proper setup, like is the case in my company, if I, who is a core member of the company, uses my credentials to do an activity, information, there is a trace of the event that happened, and this is tied to me. And so within the Security Operations Center, they can do a listing of the logs and reconstitute what happened, and they would tie this to me, to my account, to my IP address, and they can hold me responsible. But in the public domain where you did not sign in with any username, password, blah, 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 everything is fluid. So that's why we warn against that. All right, let's move. We can move. You don't have to read the developing governance documents necessarily because I think that's just re-echoing what we have said before. It's just taking you through the process. You go from identifying the scope and purpose, and then you research and review. Then you have a draft of the document. You review that document that has been drafted, and then you implement it. And then you review that update, and then it's in use. So you can go down towards preparing a password policy. Mhm. Last week, we saw that within Active Directory, if a member of IT support, for instance, was given power by delegation over your account, right? Usually, you might have reported that you forgot your password. So the guy in IT support would use Active Directory to reset your password for you, but to enforce these password storage guidelines and change and reset guidelines, the moment that the IT support guy resets your password, they will choose a new password for you, and they will communicate this password with you. But also they would action a policy that the moment you log in with this password, you must change the password. Now, why are you changing the password? The guy in IT support knows this particular password. So if you kept using it, then there is the danger that he knows the password and he can, you know, peek into your account and see what you are doing. This temptation is already there. To totally make sure that this temptation disappears, a policy has been actioned so that the moment you sign in with that particular account, the first thing that you are doing is you are mandated to change the password. You cannot do anything else without changing the password. When you change the password now, automatically you have developed a new password that only you know. The guy in IT support does not know. It's a default password in effect. Yeah, so you can continue. Okay, just there. Do you know that within cybersecurity, running trainings is a role that somebody will be expected to fulfill? Yes, there was a company that reached out to me, and they were saying, we see that you already have good training portfolio in terms of where you work as a lecturer. Can you come and be our trainer? And they are offering a 20-month contract, uh, and it's on a B2B basis. So the only reason why I haven't taken it is because my B2B credentials have not been actioned yet. Like within my country, Poland, you have to go to administration and indicate that you want to operate as an expert within B2B domain. So that's a special type of a residency permit that will be given to you to permit you to do that. And when that is given now, then you can start operating like that. And in terms of the training, what what you'll be doing as a cybersecurity person when it comes to training is most of these companies already have a software that people within the company will have access to. So one of your responsibility will be to look into documentation around the aspect that they want the training to be on, study this documentation, and then prepare guidance from there. The company will have a template from that software that you will feed whatever guidance you have prepared into that template, and then you upload it inside the software. When you upload it inside the software, it will generate brochures and other things that the company can now download and give to its people. So that's how the training of certain aspects, maybe like things like password policies, that's how it is handled. Now, when it comes to more tactical or more technical responsibilities, then that is when you would necessarily have to show up and do a meeting like we are doing right now to, you know, train the people with hands-on. Some trainings will only be informational, so they would use those software to get them to know. So you can go down now to the questions. I believe. Matthew, what is it called? So Sule, you have the answer there. Okay, good. Keep going, keep going. Find the answer to that one, Nestle. It's one word. Now, GRC. For GRC, just go straight to the questions. Let's see. Involved in identifying, assessing. You can take the hints. Yep. hmm if I were you here, I would want to read that introductory section first, go to the questions, but I'm sure that the questions might require that you come back and read a bit about GDPR. Let's just go to the questions first, and then we'll see which section we can focus on. So the first one there, just go to where you have GDPR. Yeah, there. So you can just read from GDPR down to the end, but the answer is towards the end. Just start from there. GDPR is data protection law. So before you move on, Matthew, is it okay if you muted yourself because we're getting echoes? Thank you. So the exam would require that you should have minimal understanding of GDPR. You should be able to see if they articulate GDPR as in terms of functioning, you should be able to pick out that they are talking about GDPR. And then the exam also requires that you should know what uh, personal data is. Okay, so that's something that you should know. Key points of the law include, continue from there. Just stop there. Just stop there for a bit. What does that mean? Perfect. So, like, even now that we are having this meeting, right? If I have to record this meeting, I should let you know that I will record the meeting. And you have to acknowledge that you have approved that we should record the meeting. If you have not approved, then I have no right to record the meeting. Yes, and the essence of all of that is because it is for your own security. Uh, you know that when you are conversing with someone, you can say slangs like, come on, that president is a useless person. It's a slang that you said, right? In the hearing of both of you, it's your word against mine. But if we were recording an audio with this conversation or there was a video, then there is a digital print. There's a digital blueprint that's kept. And if someone went to court and said that you were sabotaging the president, they can bring this recording as evidence and it is accepted in court. So it is for this reason that you should consent to things like this. I fell in this trap. When I just showed up here, my colleague was trying to help me out. I was under a lot of stress and duress with so many things that were not going right. And she was explaining some very complex procedures to me. And at some point, I recorded part of the guidelines that she was giving. And, I was recording it. And then, it was just to me like, I mean, in Cameroon, for instance, if I see you, I can even be recording you, right? And it will not be an issue. And when we finished that conversation, she left from there with a different notion in her mind. And the notion was that I had recorded the conversation because I had secondary motive. Do you know what she did? She wrote an email. She did not send me a text. She wrote an email to me. And in that email, she stated in the email that when she was talking to me about how to regularize my situation in terms of my residency, I recorded this. So by writing an email, she has also produced a blueprint to defend herself because in some aspect of the conversation, she talked about the fact that she has two children and the children are living with her in this country. So this is what she was targeting. If something ever happens to her children, one of the suspects is Theophile. When I saw this, I was stressed out even the more. I replied to the email and apologized formally. And then I told her that I was under a lot of stress. That's why I recorded this, but that I am deleting this with every copy, and that she is free to come and verify that everything has been deleted and cannot be recovered. She was still not satisfied. It took a while. It took a while before we came back to the same stance of flowing through without suspecting each other. Have you ever been in such a situation, Matthew? And to be honest, this person was also African. I am a new colleague. I am a new colleague. So while she is trying to help me, she does not trust me. So she is putting her guard. Okay. It is for this same reason, Sule, that we don't go out handing phone numbers as we do in Africa. My colleague again tried to trick me. He said, I am trying to get to this other colleague. Is it okay if you gave me his phone number? Blah, blah, blah. And I told her that I said it in my heart that you guys have forgotten that I am in cybersecurity domain now. And I am now in Europe and I know what GDPR is saying. So I just told her politely that it's okay. This is what we will do. I will talk to him, and if he is okay, then I will share his contact with you. And then that's how the matter ended. Okay, let's continue. I thought that I should share this for some context. Personal data should be kept. Okay, let's look at this kept for a minimum thing. How do various companies implement this? In my company, the way we implement this is even though everybody has agreed to the recording of a meeting, okay, when we record that meeting on Teams, automatically after a period of 6 to 9 months, that recording will expire. When it expires, whoever was the one that created the recording will be notified. Then they can choose to not take an action. If they choose not to take an action, the recording will be deleted from the servers and you will not be able to access it again. If you choose to keep it, they can extend it again for a period of 6 months or 1 year. And then after that, they will request again that you should take an action. Why am I sharing this? You can find yourself in a job interview, and one of the questions in the interview is this one. Uh, Personal data should be kept to a minimum and only collected when necessary. You said that you came from company X. How was company X implementing this? What was company X's implementation of this? And if you don't have any examples to present, you run dry on your thoughts and then you can fail the interview. Okay, let's go to the questions. On the slides, I have covered data protection officer, data owner, and that. All of that mostly they are straightforward. You can just read it. So I don't intend to be reading that one by one. Okay. If you just scroll up to the diagram that's to the visualization that's slightly above here, the exam requires that you should know these various things. Scroll up again. Yes, you should know data subject, who a data subject is, who a data owner is, who a data protection officer is, and so on and so forth. All of that is in the slides, in the set of slides that I sent out to you. They are straightforward. You just need to read that up and carry on. Mhm. Move down now. So, what is the maximum fine for Tier 1? Tier 1 and Tier 2 is just there. So, you can read the Tier 1, you will see the maximum penalty. That's 4% of the organization's revenue. Yes. So just imagine that lady took that thing through to court. They will say that I collected her information without letting her know and without having her consent. So I was in violation of that regulation. And so now her family is in danger. And so my fine is 10,000 euros. Okay, so you can put the answer there. The answer is 4%, just 4. In terms of PCI DSS, what does CHD stand for? Matthew, I'm sure you've already read that. Matthew, are you there? It's okay. Card holder data. Can you tell Sule where he can find that information? Yes, it says card holder, but it doesn't say card holder data, right? Good. Another way is, do you see where you have the link? You can learn more about standard here. If you click on that link, you would download uh, the document about this PCI DSS standard, and then inside that document, you can just run a search string, and it will pick up this thing for you. So the answer should be card holder data. Now, NIST special publications. So you can read the first two paragraphs, and then we'll go straight to the questions. Triad. So you have those controls. Those are the groupings. You have administrative controls, you have technical controls, physical controls, and strategic controls. The exam would require that you should know what is an administrative control, what is a technical control, what is a physical control, what is a strategic control. We covered this in the introductory part of this series. So, as we are rounding up, anything that you did not cover, you will indicate. I will try to find the slides and send to you. If you need support with that particular set of slides, then you can reach out to me. Okay. Emmanuel already covered that. So most of you joined late. That's why we have not covered these various controls as they are. But in terms of administrative control, this would be things like documented trainings, for instance. If you have a documented training about the expectations of safe conduct of of an employee within the company, that is an administrative control. If you have if you have information about using technology to enforce aspects of cybersecurity, okay, that would be technical controls. For instance, if you find yourself talking about using encryption and all of that, okay, to be able to protect access to sensitive data, the fact that you are talking about encryption, that is technical. So that's technical control. You also have aspects of physical control. With physical control, we are looking at things like fences, security guards that try to regulate happenings around cybersecurity. That's physical controls. Strategic controls, that those are things that have to do with uh, thinking in advance about the direction of the company, coming out with a plan. So those are strategic. So you can scroll down now to the questions. I don't think so. Just go up again. That's what's that they're asking for? That should be administrative, I believe. I believe. Mhm. Just close the pop-up, or you can just click away from it. Just click away from it. Yes. I think it's administrative. With incidents. Okay, for admin, why do we? Sule is asking the question: why do we place incidents response within administrative? Right. This is about the aspect um, of documenting the incident response process. It's not actually carrying out the process. That's why it is administrative. Four-letter word. It's three-letter word even. Scroll up. I don't think it's there. It's below. Yes, there. I think that's where the thing is. Heat map. I don't think so. Can you just go back to the image? Let me see what the map there is about. NIST 800-53 compliance best practices. Um, I think that map there has to do with mapping, and mapping actually is trying to correlate. Maybe say it can be things like indicators of compromise that that could be in the data that's available with like a framework that has previously identified certain indicators of compromise. For instance, if you're using a platform like MITRE ATT&CK, you'll be able to look through MITRE ATT&CK and see uh, other reported incidents of the same nature as the one that you are having right now, and you'll be able to map what showed that there was an incident going on in this particular instance with your own situation. If you can map some of those indicators that show that there was an incident in that situation with your own, then you can classify that yours is indeed a, an incident of the same nature. Obviously, within MITRE ATT&CK, there is already a recording of how this incident played out and a set of mitigations that were taken to resolve the incident. So when you have mapped indicators in your current situation with the indicators in the projected situation, you already have a starting point for what you can use as mitigation strategy. I think that's what this map thing is about. Yeah, you might go straight to the questions. Let's begin from then, see. Are you ready? Start the guided tour. So that's the playground area, essentially that portion that has been shown. So hover over to see. Just hover. Have you seen when you hover there? Have you seen hover data leakage, man in the middle attack, unpatched, blah blah blah. Those are them. So now on the right hand side, you have the controls against phishing emails and so on and so forth. So what do you use against phishing emails? You can try user awareness. Yeah. So for starters, hold on. Just click on that restart so that they can restart the time for you. Have you clicked? Then you can skip the tour now. Yeah, click on user awareness for starters. Click on user awareness controls in the right. Yes. Have you clicked? Now go to the this thing to the what area that they call, and then you hover there. Then the yes there. Hover there. Then click shoot. Click to shoot. Good. So which one is the correct one? Which of the following is a valid NIST publication? Is that one NIST 800? Yes, that one. Click. Good. Next, go and select the next one. So you can hover over there to see what is remaining. Hover over there to see what is remaining before you choose. Yeah, hover over the weapon first. Over the bubbles first. Over the bubbles first. Yeah, man in the middle attack, unpatched software, unregulated, non-compliant. So for man in the middle, you can use secure connections. Click on secure connections now. Then move towards the blue and shoot. Good. Now hover over and choose the next one. Unpatched software, automatic patch management. Hover towards the black and shoot. Good. Which of the following frameworks assist in information, this in security management compliance? No, it's I think the SOC. So you have to restart. Now you know the drill, so do it correctly. Skip tour and ready. Start with phishing emails, user awareness. The time is counting down fast though. You got the wrong one. It's the one at the bottom. Man in the middle attack takes secure connections. Hover over now. On patch software, take automatic patch management. Select the one at the bottom. Hover over the thing again. Data leakage and unregulated and non-compliant. I think data leakage is take the GDPR one. Yep. And then finally click the other one to finish the thing. That is your flag. So you copy the flag and then you can paste it in there. You submit.